Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 140. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Friday, September the 20th, from the James Strong studio in western St. Charles County. Had lots going on the last couple of weeks, so haven't had quite a podcast a week, but maybe 3 podcasts every 4 weeks, something like that. But it's summertime. All kinds of good things going on. Went camping again. Went to the ball game. Spent some time in downtown St. Louis last weekend. Just lots of fun time because this time of year in the Midwest is really pretty cool. Usually it's pretty dry. It has been pretty dry. Evenings are cool. Days are warm. And just taking advantage of some downtime. So the weather's going to quickly get colder. So podcasts should be resuming to something closer to once a week. So that's my version of a summer vacation. How's that? My essay today has to do with something that was in the news the last couple of days, and it has to do with UFOs, aliens, disclosure, Tom DeLonge, U.S. Navy videos being verified by the U.S. government, not debunked. But there's a lot of stuff in the UFO news that I think is very newsworthy. And what I'm going to do on today's essay is a little bit different. Usually I throw something out there, have an opinion, and I support that opinion in fact. Well, that's kind of what I'm going to do during this essay. I'm going to present some information, throw some facts out there, throw some opinions out there, and in the end, maybe not come up with a solution or even an opinion, but maybe, hopefully, when you're finished listening to this podcast, you will be more informed. And if you're more informed, perhaps you will have a stronger opinion as to what's going on with things flying in the sky. Well, yesterday it all began. Alien stock. The raiding of Area 51 by believers because you can't stop us all. That was their motto. And if you remember months ago, there was a group that said, we're going to Area 51. We're going to storm the gates of Area 51 and they can't kill us all. I don't care how many hundreds of thousands of you there are storming the gates of Area 51, but trust me, if they wanted to, they could kill you all. It could happen. They could stop you all. But actually, this is called alien stock, and it's really just, it's kind of a big party. That's what this whole thing was all about. There was a lot of hype, but a lot of that hype was just there to make a story. And they're calling it alien stock, kind of like Woodstock. It's a party. There have been some arrests. In fact, so far there have been 2 arrests. One Canadian guy who was arrested for indecent exposure, and one fellow who was a drunk who was arrested on, was it public drunkenness or alcohol-related matters, something like that. So one guy whipped out something he shouldn't have. The other guy got too drunk. Those have been the 2 arrests. Nobody's storming Area 51. In fact, it looks like this whole thing is just a big party. It's a camping weekend. There's music. There's partying. It's kind of like a poor man's Burning Man, so to speak. Okay. And actually it looks like a lot of fun. I posted one video on Facebook. I'll probably do more also, but the whole little green man thing, it's fun. It's silly. It's an opportunity to smile. Okay. That part of it is. But the essay today isn't really about that side of the UFOs. It's about full disclosure or lack of it. It's about, if there's nothing there, why does the government lie to us? It's about the cover-ups. It's about the stalling. It's about that type of thing. I have no idea what UFOs are. I do know for a fact that UFOs are real. I've seen one myself. Please understand that doesn't mean I've seen a flying saucer from Mars. I've seen object in the sky that I couldn't identify, nor could my son who was with me at that time. Okay, so are UFOs for real? Yes, they are. I've seen one. What are they? Can't tell you. But perhaps after this essay, we'll know a little bit more, or at least have a better understanding or an idea as to what they're all about. Let's start back to July 8th, 1947. That was the Roswell Incident, okay? Actually, the Roswell Incident was a day or two before. But July 8th, 1947 is when the Roswell Daily Record, that was the daily newspaper of Roswell, New Mexico, shocked America when its headline read, RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Now, the RAAF was the Roswell Army Airfield. That was the name of the Army base that was right there in the Roswell area, okay? And the headline, this headline, unlike many headlines today, was very accurate as to what was in the body of the story, okay? RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Okay. Now, why did they pick that headline? I'm going to read you not the whole story, just the actual story that appeared in the Roswell Daily Record back on July 8th, 1947. Okay. Starts like this. The intelligence office of the 509th Bombardment Group at Roswell Army Airfield announced noon today that the field has come into possession of a flying saucer. According to information released by the department over authority of Major J.A. Marcel, that's Jesse Marcel, intelligence officer, the disc was recovered on a ranch in the Roswell vicinity after an unidentified rancher had notified Sheriff George Wilcox here that he had found the instrument on his premises. Major Marcel and a detail from his department went to the ranch and discovered the disc. It was stated by the government. After the intelligence, and that by the government, that was me. That was my interjection, okay? Not actually part of the article. But after the intelligence officer here had inspected the instrument, it was flown to higher headquarters. The intelligence office stated that no details of the saucer's construction or its appearance had been revealed. And then it goes on to say how Mr. and Mrs. Dan Wilmot, they also saw the flying disc and blah, blah, blah. But think about this story. The government, the U.S. Army, a U.S. Army major intelligence officer said, yep, there's a flying saucer, a flying disc, and we've got it, but we're not going to tell you what it's all about just yet, okay? The translation was the U.S. Army told the press that it had a flying saucer. No ifs, ands, or buts. No weather balloon, no swamp gas. We think it might be. Some people say that. Some sources believe. No. We're the Army. We have a flying saucer. That's what the story says. Okay? Now, by the way, the next day, they rebuffed the story. They said, no, that was wrong. It was really just a weather balloon. Sorry. And nobody believed them. Now let's fast forward. In 2017 and 2018, there were 3 videos taken by Navy pilots years earlier were released by Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182 guy. Yeah, that Tom DeLonge. He now runs To the Stars Academy. It's an organization that is looking to find out what's going on with all these UFOs and other things. But DeLonge released this information, these stories, these videos to the New York Times, and the New York Times reported it. Remember when that happened? 2017, 2018. Remember when that happened? Now, this week, the U.S. Navy admitted that they had no explanation for the objects in the videos. In other words, the objects in the videos were unidentified, and they were flying. In other words, the U.S. Navy admitted they were UFOs, and that these videos should have never been released to the public. If they're harmless, why not release them to the public? There's obviously something going on there, okay? Now, to my knowledge, these two instances, the Roswell crash and the government's admission just this week about these videos, to my knowledge, these two instances, 72 years apart, are the only times the U.S. government has admitted that UFOs exist. They even called them flying saucers back in 1947. And by the way, that statement was retracted the next day by the U.S. Army. Although Major Jesse Marcel, the officer in charge of the initial saucer confiscation, went to his grave with the original story. He said, yeah, they said it was a weather balloon, but it wasn't. He never backed off of his original statement to the Roswell Daily Record. Now, Tom DeLonge has claimed that sources from the government speak to him about aliens. Okay, maybe that's true, maybe that's not, okay? And a lot of what we hear with the UFO folks is, I knew a guy who said, okay, Tom DeLonge said this. Tom DeLonge said someone spoke to him. Do you have a recording? No. Did anybody see you? No. Okay, not calling Tom DeLonge a liar, but anybody can say that they spoke to anyone. There's one UFO fellow, Dr. Steven Greer, who said one time that he's in discussions with a high-level Pentagon official. And he named him, okay? Well, they interviewed this high-level Pentagon official and say, have you been in discussions with Dr. Steven Greer? And he looked at the reporter and he said, well, I saw him at a cocktail party, and he was telling me about something, and I politely listened. There's a big difference between getting cornered by a guy at a cocktail party and smiling when he talks to you and having a discussion. Now, is Dr. Greer right? Is the Pentagon official right? Is it something in between? I don't know. But what I'm saying here is just because a guy says something doesn't necessarily mean it's so. Unless that guy is the U.S. government. If they make a statement, the U.S. government just doesn't make statements. They think about it. They study about it. They discuss it. They wordsmith it, and then they come out with it. With the exception of President Trump, nobody in government shoots from the hip. Nobody. Now, Tom DeLonge claims this, that he's talked to people, and he is the conduit between the government and us. That's what he claims, okay? Don't know about that, but there was an interview in a publication called Motherboard, and the guy interviewed was Joseph Grandisher, okay? He's a spokesman for the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare. Long title, important guy. And basically, what Grandisher says is that the Navy considers the phenomenon depicted in the 3 videos as unidentified. So in other words, he's even saying those 3 videos contain unidentified flying objects. He's a government guy, okay? Grandisher then told Motherboard that the unidentified objects will be investigated further, but the results will never be made to the public. Translation: we don't know, but when we do, we're not going to tell you. Now, why would they make a statement like that? I always ask that question. When anybody says anything, I ask, why did he say it? And sometimes people misspeak. Sometimes people mix up their words. Sometimes people put their foot in their mouth. Not when the government speaks. Because like I said, everything the government says is carefully metered, carefully structured, carefully thought about before they say anything. So why would Grandisher say, we don't know what these things are, but we are investigating them, and when we find out, we're not going to tell you? Why wouldn't he at least say, gosh, we don't know what these are. I guess we never will know, and smile, okay? People probably would have accepted that. But if you're going to say, we don't know what we are, but we're going to find out, or at least we think we will, but when we do, we're not telling you. What are you afraid of? If you find out it's swamp gas, say it's swamp gas. If they thought it was swamp gas,